And now a look at all the latest headlines this Monday with the ITV Lunchtime News.
A code red for humanity, the dire warning on climate change. A UN report says human activity has changed the Earth's climate at an unprecedented rate. Flooding, heat waves and droughts will be more frequent and intense as the world is set to hit its global warming limit.
Climate change is a problem that is here now. Nobody is safe and it's getting worse faster.
Today's warning comes as wildfires continue to rage across southern Europe. In Greece, more people are fleeing their homes to escape the flames. Also on the programme, a march on Downing Street. The fight to save Geronimo, the alpaca, gains pace. And welcome home. Team GB's Olympic heroes celebrating one of our most successful games ever.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. It is the starkest warning yet that a climate crisis is putting at risk the lives of billions. A landmark report from the UN says that without drastic reductions in greenhouse emissions, the world will reach the global warming limit within the next 20 years. With that will come more devastation and extreme weather, including heat waves, droughts and floods. The scientists say the cause is clear: human activity. Boris Johnson has described it as a wake-up call for the world to take action now. And as our political reporter Shihab Khan reports, experts warn that every fraction of a degree matters.
These extreme events around the world are becoming more frequent, and with it the potential for devastation on an unmatched scale. Whether it's wildfires ripping through Canada, floods in China so severe it makes its way onto the subway system, or droughts in Argentina drying up rivers. A landmark report from the United Nations has warned it is code red for humanity, and it is our activity that is changing the climate in an unprecedented way.
Climate change is here today. It's no longer a problem that's only going to affect our grandchildren in the far future. We're seeing the impacts of climate change already across the world. We're at increased risk of heat waves, extreme rainfall events, droughts and flooding.
Since 1970, global surface temperatures have risen faster than in any other 50-year period over the last 2,000 years. The report suggests it is more likely than not that the target of limiting global temperature rises by 1.5 degrees Celsius will be breached in the next 20 years. They've also warned that a rise in sea levels approaching 2 metres by the end of this century cannot be ruled out. You can see the impact of this with your own eyes, not only around the world, like here in India, where pollution is so severe that at times famous monuments are barely visible, but also in our home in the United Kingdom. This year we've had a number of significant events, including flood barriers being breached in Shrewsbury and Ironbridge, and winds reaching 100 miles an hour as Storm Bella hit our shores. Ed Kane lives in a house on a cliff top on the Isle of Sheppey in Kent. His home is in danger of disappearing because of coastal erosion.
There was a house in front of me, which is gone, and a good 60 yards in front of that was the cliff. But the erosion of the cliffs, we might have lost a foot a year.
That is why the government is pursuing a target of net zero emissions by 2050. It will require huge work, some of which the Prime Minister witnessed during his trip to Scotland. But how will the government pay for these changes and deal with the implications of them? It's an ambitious move, but will it work?
It should be a wake-up call. I think that our targets are fairly robust. I think the job that we have is to try and bring other people across the world to the net zero agenda. And I think that's beginning to happen. And we need a much stronger response from the international community.
The perfect opportunity to try and do that will be at the COP26 summit, which we are hosting in Glasgow later this year. It is a chance to get world leaders to agree action to try and limit the devastating effects of climate change, which as it stands, we are as a planet on course to face. Shihab Khan, ITV News.
We're hoping to talk some more about the response to that report in just a moment. First, let's get the latest on the fires that are burning in southern Europe. ITV's Good Morning Britain's Jonathan Swain is on the Greek island of Evia, where villages and holiday resorts are now almost deserted.
Well, I'm standing on a beach in the north of the islands. Normally in the middle of the day, in the middle of August, this would be packed full of holidaymakers, but not the case today because of this thick smoke which has been hanging now in the air for the last 2 weeks because of these wildfires burning. And just take a look at the beachfront here. The tavernas, the restaurants, the bars are all closed. There are coast guards here, ambulances and the police and fire crews all in the area. And this ferry is on standby to evacuate people again off the island should the fires flare up again. But thankfully, overnight, fire crews have told us they're just small sporadic fires which are now flaring up in this part of the island. And just over to the left-hand side, there's some crates in the far distance over there. They're wild dogs that have been rounded up. Some of them have been badly burnt in these fires over the past few days. And just take a look at the pictures of our journey here, driving through the islands this morning, seeing scorched earth everywhere that we looked, and that white stuff on the ground is not snow, it is in fact ash. 21 firefighters from the UK are all here as well to help with the relief effort.
Jonathan Swain reporting there from Evia in Greece. Moving on, most COVID restrictions have been removed in Scotland. Limits on numbers at social gatherings have gone, as have physical distancing rules, except in healthcare settings. However, some measures remain, such as the need to wear face coverings on public transport. Our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith is in Edinburgh and he sent this.
Today is the day at last Scotland is unlocking. It's not Freedom Day, there are still restrictions still in place, but we're unlocking just in time for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival to resume, and of course just for the Scottish weather to resume normality for a Scottish summertime. Now, what we are seeing is that in places like nightclubs, for example, people were able to gather by the thousands with no face masks on last night. These pictures coming in this morning, and that is in some contrast to places of worship, for example, where face masks are still required for people praying. Now, we asked Nicola Sturgeon about this seeming contradiction. Here's what she told us.
I don't think we'll see change in a couple of weeks' time on face masks. I think face masks may be with us for some time to come. Of course, we keep it under review. I'm not asking anybody to wear face masks for my benefit because I particularly want to, insist on people wearing face coverings. It's for the protection of all of us.
The rules are clear in Scotland that while face masks are not required outdoors, indoors at shops, bars, restaurants, until you take your seat, places of worship, you do need to have a face mask on. In secondary school, pupils will need to keep face masks on during lessons. The crowds are limited in indoor events to 2,000, at outdoor events it's up to 5,000, although special dispensation is being given on a case-by-case basis. Tomorrow night, for example, Rangers are playing in a Champions League qualifier. We're expecting crowds of 50,000 at that match. So while this is not Freedom Day for Scotland, certainly more freedoms are coming.
Peter Smith in Edinburgh there. Meanwhile, a new study by the Office for National Statistics has found a fall in the number of people who are unwilling or unsure about having a COVID vaccine. Our reporter Mark McQuillan is here. So, Mark, what does this data tell us?
Well, this is significant, Lucrezia, because this fall in vaccine hesitancy is among a group of people who are now crucially eligible for a jab, and that is 16 and 17-year-olds, some of whom got their first dose on Friday following the extension of the vaccine rollout. Now, you recall the government has been trying really hard to increase the uptake in vaccines among younger people, offering incentives like discounted pizzas and taxis, try and get more people to go and get a jab. So they'll be looking at these figures with great interest. This analysis from the ONS found that for 16 and 17-year-olds, hesitancy has decreased from 14 to 11%, while among those 18 to 21, hesitancy around jabs went down to 5% from 9%. Overall, the figure for hesitancy among Black or Black British adults was 21%. That is a slight increase, while hesitancy was higher for adults identifying as Muslim, 14%, and vaccine hesitancy among white adults remained at 4%. So there is an encouraging trend, particularly around younger people and vaccine hesitancy reducing among that particular group of people, but still some work to do to reduce that figure in certain communities.
All right, Mark, thank you. Well, for all the latest on the pandemic, including all the changes in Scotland, there is much more on our website. Just go to itv.com/news. The Taliban have rejected calls for a ceasefire as they continue their advance through Afghanistan. They have captured the strategically important city of Kunduz, with 5 regional capitals now having fallen to the militant group over the weekend. Heavy fighting erupted last month after international troops began their withdrawal from the country. Still to come. Back in Britain, the last of Team GB's Olympians receive a hero's welcome at Heathrow. But first, almost 100,000 people have signed a petition calling on the Prime Minister to halt the destruction of an alpaca who tested positive for bovine tuberculosis. Geronimo's case has gathered more and more support from animal rights protesters who, along with his owner, Helen McDonald, believe his initial tests are highly likely to be inaccurate and want him to get another final test. Well, they are marching on Downing Street this lunchtime, but in the past hour, the Prime Minister's spokesperson has again insisted that the government can give no reprieve for Geronimo. Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Ian McGill, who is Geronimo's veterinary scientific advisor and who joins us from this afternoon's protest. Thank you so much for talking to me this lunchtime. First of all, just talk us through what this is about, because this is not just about saving Geronimo's life, isn't it? It's also about him getting tested again. Why do we need this other test, or why are you asking for that?
Well, George Eustace has made an absolute howler of a lie by claiming that these tests are validated in alpacas and detect the bacteria that causes TB. In fact, they're just an antibody test which can be affected by the primer that poor old Geronimo's been given. So we need a proper test. The test we need is called actiphage, and it works by only detecting the live bacteria that causes TB and then detecting it through PCR, which we're all familiar with because of COVID.
You know, this story has moved so many, and you've got so much support, I think, including the Prime Minister's father, Stanley Johnson. But, you know, as a vet, that you will know this as well, that many in the farming industry have experienced a significant loss because of the impact of bovine TB. And it's a very, very serious issue for them, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. The government's test that they're using, the skin test, only works 50% of the time. So farmers are being lied to. They're being put through absolute hell by these TB tests every 6 months in the West Country. And that, you know, we really need a new deal for farmers, for cattle, for badgers, because they're killing badgers and framing them because their skin test isn't working. We need a root and branch reform of TB policy. And really, Boris Johnson needs to sack George Eustace for lying, pause this mayhem of slaughtering Geronimo, and order this new test, actiphage.
I'm sure George Eustace would have something to say about that, but let's get it back to Geronimo's case if we can. Now, if we do get this third test, and if he does test positive again for bovine TB, and I know you know his owner, Helen McDonald, very well, what will she do?
I'm sure she would have Geronimo put down, sadly, if he does have TB. But all the indications are that he doesn't have TB. These diagnoses, which are very, very suspect and unsafe, were several years ago. He's still alive, perfectly healthy. His vet, who inspects him all the time, says he's very healthy, he's not losing weight, he's very unlikely to have TB. So Helen is more than happy for this test to go ahead.
And Ian, you know, a lot of people, and especially those supporting Geronimo and don't want to see him meet, you know, his end in this way, you know, they will be asking the question, can we not keep him in isolation, for example? Is that not a way that he would be safe and he would not infect other animals? What's the situation there? Can't we do that?
Yeah, he's already in isolation because he's got this suspect diagnosis of TB, which, as I say, is unsafe. So Helen would be more than happy to keep him in isolation. And that's certainly a possibility. But at the moment, she's prevented by law from getting this new test without the permission of George Eustace. And obviously, he's not going to give it. If they take this test, he won't have TB, and then the government will look foolish. And they are being foolish because they really need to get their TB policy up to scratch and make it based on honesty and get farmers, vets, cattle, representatives and people that represent badgers round the table and move forward.
OK, well, listen, Ian McGill, thank you very much for talking to me. And I know you present that petition around 2 o'clock at Downing Street today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Let's go on to some of the day's other stories. And Vodafone will reintroduce roaming charges for customers travelling to the EU. From January, customers will have to pay up to £2 per day to use their phone on the continent. Roaming fees ended in 2017 when the UK was still a member of the European Union. Ocado have told its staff they can work remotely from outside the UK for 1 month of the year. The move would apply only to staff who worked from home during the pandemic. The online grocer said the move would offer balance and choice to its workers. And it seems Banksy is at it again. This model in a miniature village in Great Yarmouth was covered with street art alongside the iconic artist's signature. It's part of a number of artworks that have appeared in the area. Banksy has yet to confirm if the graffiti is genuine. The final members of Team GB's Olympic squad have arrived back in Britain this lunchtime at the end of another hugely successful Games. Great Britain finished with a total of 65 medals, far higher than the 52 predicted by experts ahead of the tournament. And as Sangeeta Lal reports, there's already talk of what's to come in 3 years' time when Paris hosts the next Olympics.
It was an Olympics many thought impossible to hold, with a theme of hope the world could move on together after overcoming the pandemic. In Tokyo, the flames have gone out for a Games that ignited a fire in Team GB. These young athletes claimed 65 medals overall, 22 of them gold, an achievement the British Olympics Association hopes will encourage more future funding.
Olympic sport, indeed Paralympic sport, is something that this country is genuinely world class at. So I hope that the government, when they sit down and discuss this with UK sport, will be generous and sensible with the funding
needed to better prepare Britain's athletes for Paris 2024. This Olympics aims to set a new standard for inclusive sports, where breakdancing will make its Games debut. A new addition on top of many already seen this year. Skateboarding will be returning to the Olympics and hoping to be there too, Britain's youngest ever medal winner, although this time Sky Brown hopes to also compete in surfing.
Skating and surfing and like the best spots ever would be like awesome. Honestly, it would be insane. That's definitely my goal, but I do know it's going to be hard.
But difficulty hasn't fazed this young team, who arrived back in the UK this morning. Their achievements have been deemed some of the greatest in British Olympic history, something they'll hope to repeat in 2024, their next chance to compete on the world stage again. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
Well, our correspondent Rachel Younger is at the arrivals hall at Heathrow, where our Olympians are returning home this lunchtime. Rachel, the Games are over, but the celebrations are ongoing.
Gosh, it feels like they're just getting started here. I've got to tell you, it's around 3/4 of an hour since flight BA008 touched down here from Tokyo, carrying the last athletes from Team GB arriving back here at Heathrow with a whole clutch of medals between them, including 8 golds, the modern pentathlete, the cyclists, the athletes and also the boxers. And I'm pleased to say we have one of them here with us now. Galal Afai, if I can just bring you around here. You won an incredible gold. Come on, show us the medal. Not only a gold medal, but also one of the best welcomes I've seen back here. What's it been like? Your entire family and your boxing club out to welcome you. Just describe what it was like when you came through the gates.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. Obviously, everyone greeting me and other athletes. See my mum and my brothers, all my friends. Yeah, it was nice to be welcomed back out.
It was quite a welcome. Your brother Cow is here, also a boxer. Just tell me about the celebration you planned. You had the T-shirts, you had the nephews, aunties, girlfriends. Why was it so important to give such a great welcome home?
Because it's the Olympic champion. you ain't getting bigger than that. He's the Olympic champion. We've got to make sure the welcome's, good and proper. And we all turned up and we all made some noise. And you better get used to it, because it's going to be... when he's fighting in front of packed crowds in Birmingham, it's going to be absolute manic.
I think we've got half of Birmingham here today. Just tell me what it was like to watch as Galal brought that medal home. I can't even explain it. It's unbelievable, emotional, just everything. Seeing him win gold was the best day of my life, I think. quite a moment when that decision went your way. It could only go your way, of course. But what's it been like getting through this Olympics in a time of a pandemic? It's been tough.
You know what? I've tried not to think about that too much. I've just tried to focus on the boxing. As you can see, I took every fight as they come, and I got through all 5, and I got crowned Olympic champion.
And I know I've been speaking to your mother a few minutes ago. She told me that having 2 boxers in the family, well, 3 including your other brother, she used to have to split you up in the sitting room.
Yeah, growing up we used to fight as youngsters, but obviously, as you can see, it's put us in good stead now.
And where's this medal going to go next?
Then we'll have to see. Hopefully, maybe I'll put it somewhere nice in my sitting room. Hopefully.
Well, it's been carried shoulder high by some of your friends from Birmingham City. What does this mean for the sport of boxing in Birmingham, do you think?
It's obviously a great thing whenever you win an Olympic medal or Olympic gold medal. Not many do it from Birmingham. I'm glad to be, I don't know if I'm the only one from Birmingham in the last 100 years to win a gold medal in boxing. So yeah, it's a proud moment, it's a humbling moment for me, and hopefully it can continue with other athletes in the future.
Galali Afai, and that incredible gold medal. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We'll let you head home. I know you're keen to do that. What a few weeks it's been. The last sportsmen of Team GB and women coming back today. But haven't they given us an incredible few weeks in the most difficult of times? Simply having something to wake up to in the morning, those good news stories, those successes that we've heard day in, day out. Enormous welcome back for the athletes here at Heathrow today.
All right, Rachel, we've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you. Finally, it was just time to tell you an update on China's famous herd of wandering elephants. The group of 14 elephants attracted international fame after they wandered from their reserve in southern China more than a year ago. Well, their 300-mile trek has captivated people there, with specialist teams following the animals to monitor their safety. It seems the herd is finally heading home. They were seen here being guided across a river last night towards their nature reserve. And that's it. Charlene will be here with the evening news at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather. But for now, from everyone here on the Lunchtime team, bye-bye.